I think it's funny that when it comes to weight loss and getting support, we have this negative stigma in society. But if it comes to business, then it's okay to get a coach, right? All of the most successful people generally have coaches. If you're an athlete, then it's okay to have a coach. I mean, people would look at you oddly if you're an athlete and you don't have a coach behind you helping you. It's no different with weight loss. Having a coach, having someone who holds you accountable, reduces the emotion that comes into play and really just puts you on point and holds you accountable. It's someone who tells you the truth, someone who can take an outside perspective and really figure out what small tweaks need to be made so you can see continued success.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today we're going to talk about why you might be stuck in your weight loss goals or why you might drop the weight only to regain it. And it has all to do with this all or nothing mindset, this black or white thinking. And if I say this and this rings a bell in your mind, then you've probably got a little bit or a lot of this all or nothing mindset. And the deal is if you've got this way of thinking, this mindset, then you're going to find yourself stuck and that you can't move positively towards your goals. So today what we're going to talk about is these key pieces of language and these words to help you identify if you've got this all or nothing mindset. And then I want to provide you with some simple strategies that you can implement and get rid of the mindset so it's no longer plaguing you. So at PhD Weight Loss, I had this client who I chatted with just a few weeks ago, and he came in and said that he was really ready to drop the weight. He knew that he needed to. He had a ton of fat, specifically in the belly area, that visceral fat I've talked so much about. And he had high blood pressure. He was medicated, 3 medications for his high blood pressure. And I sat with him and I said, okay, well, are you so excited to get started, ready to drop this weight once and for all? And he's like, I really don't know if I'm going to do this. And I asked him what his hesitation was. And he said, when his kids come home, they're in their 20s, 30s, he really links food to celebration. And he shows his love through the food that he makes in the kitchen. And he's like, my kids are coming home. They're going to be home through the holidays, and I want to show them my love. And the only way I know how to show them love is through the food and the desserts and the wine. And I'm not willing to give that up to make these changes in my health. And so I said, well, then why are you here? And he's like, well, I know my health is an issue. I know my blood pressure. I'm having difficulty even medicating it. And he says that his wife is younger than him and is a little bit nervous as to where his health's going. And he told his wife when they got married that if something was important to her, then it would be important to him as well. And so for her, his health and their future is really important to her. And so this is an example of all or nothing mindset, this black and white thinking. Can you hear in the language that I shared with you about this client that he's stuck in this mindset? If he can't do the quote unquote diet perfectly, then it's not worth even attempting. So if you've got that thought in mind, just like this client, I want you to think about it. I also have another client, her name's Marcy, and she's great and she does everything spot on. But when it comes to an event or a holiday gathering, she throws everything out the window. So if I look at her average weekly weight loss, it's still around 2 to 2.5 pounds a week. She's doing great. But during that holiday weekend or that event weekend, she throws it all out the door. So again, if this is you and you feel like you can follow your meal plan or live within healthy alignment when your routine is consistent, but when things vary a little bit, you feel thrown off and you feel like you can't stick to it at all, then this is an example of black or white thinking. And I've got an example of me personally. I really want to journal in the morning. And another thing that I really want to do is I want to read, like just get through some paper version books. Thank goodness for Audible, because if Audible didn't exist, I would never get through a book because I just can't find the time. And I've got this all or nothing thinking associated with my journaling and with reading. I think if I don't have more than 10 minutes, it's not worth sitting there doing anything. Like, what can you read in less than 10 minutes? And if I don't have at least 5 minutes to journal, it's not worth my time. But if I really sit and think about it, and I look through this from a different lens, I could probably read about 5 pages in 5 minutes or so of a book. I bet I could get plenty of journaling done if I just sat my butt in the chair, got a pen and piece of paper and journaled. I bet I could get my thoughts out, and I bet it would make a big difference in my life. So I tell myself this, but I still get stuck in this all or nothing thinking. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to drop a comment below and share with me where you feel you got all or nothing thinking, this black or white living, and share with me below. I want to read, I want to hear. And if you've got any tips on how to overcome it before moving on and listening to the rest of this episode, drop some comments below to help the community. So the deal is that all or nothing mindset really keeps you in extremes. It's going to keep you stuck, and it's going to close the doors to opportunity. It doesn't let you think creatively about how to move through roadblocks and setbacks. So you've got to overcome this all or nothing thinking if you want to move forward. You can't let perfection block you from progress. So the first thing to think about is that your quote unquote diet isn't just the food that you fuel your body with. Oftentimes we think about our nutrition, we think about our diet, we think of how we're fueling our body, but it's just as much your thoughts. How you program your mind is based on the thoughts and the words that you use. So when you got this stressful all or nothing mindset or this black and white thinking, it impacts your body physiology in a negative way and in many aspects. So number one is that it impacts your gut health, and it actually changes the type of gut bacteria that are in your body that helps to promote fat storage rather than fat burn. It negatively impacts your immune system so that you get sick more often and you can't recover as quickly. And then it changes the way that your body metabolizes food. So when you take in carbohydrates, for example, the body is going to mount a blood sugar response. So you take in that carbohydrate and it's metabolized into blood sugar, and the body can't tolerate high levels of sugar in the blood very well. And so it tells the pancreas to secrete insulin, and insulin starts to secrete. And we don't like to have high insulin levels in the body because it's inflammatory and it promotes fat storage. So when you're in this high level of stress as a result of this mindset, you're going to be more prone to these massive and significant blood glucose spikes, and therefore that insulin response, and therefore more fat storage. And then it pushes you into more of a victim mindset where you feel hopeless and helpless and powerless. You become a victim to your consequences rather than feeling empowered to make creative choices when you come up against a roadblock or something that's uncomfortable. So this all or nothing thinking is a type of cognitive distortion when you come at it from a psychological perspective. And a cognitive distortion is this pattern of thinking. And I want you to imagine that it's like wearing a tinted colored pair of glasses where you see everything in a particular light. Well, I want you to think of this all or nothing thinking, this cognitive distortion, like tinted glasses for your thoughts. You see everything in sometimes an exaggerated way, a way that other people would see it differently, but it makes you very stuck in this specific route of thinking and understanding in regard to the circumstances that are happening in your life. So oftentimes when we have these cognitive distortions or these tinted glasses covering our thoughts, we start to make conclusions that the way things are either completely good or completely bad. It's really hard to see the in-between. It's hard for us to live in this gray area. If you go back to my journaling situation, I'm like, it's either going to be really great and I'll have 15 to 20 minutes in the morning of calm, relaxed time to journal. Or if I don't, oh my gosh, I just can't get to it. It's hopeless. I'm helpless and I'm powerless against my desire to journal through my thoughts in the morning. So let's talk about how this pertains to your health and to your diet. And specific thoughts that you might have could sound like, I've already messed up today. I might as well give up on eating healthier altogether. This day is ruined. It's over. I might as well just eat the rest of the bread basket and whatever I want for dinner. And I guess I'll start tomorrow or maybe next week or maybe next month. This is a type of thought that really undermines your confidence. And I had a client explain it great. And he said, when you make a mistake and you're driving, for example, and you take a wrong turn, you're not going to keep going the wrong direction, right? You're going to make a U-turn as immediately as you can. You might even go up and over the median and turn around and get going the way that you need to. Well, the same thing pertains to our diet, our nutrition, our health. if you make a mistake, you know that that's okay, but it's all about getting back up and moving forward in the direction that you want to go. So this black or white thinking, this all or nothing mindset really gets us stuck and closes the doors to future opportunities. So today I'm going to help you identify if you got this all or nothing mindset, and I'm going to give you practical strategies on how to overcome so that you can move forward and keep that forward momentum with your goals. Now, before I dive into that, it's really important for you to understand why you've got this all or nothing mindset, because it just doesn't happen out of the blue. So usually this develops to help you create this sense of certainty in your life. And it's a coping mechanism to adverse situations, adverse life experiences that happen to you. So usually when we have these adverse life experiences, they give us this sense of uncertainty. And one of our basic human needs is certainty. We need to know what's going to happen. We need to feel a sense of certainty so that we feel safe. And so if you've got this type of mindset, it's likely that in your past you've experienced significant or many different episodes of these adverse life experiences where you need to feel this sense of security. So you've got this all or nothing mindset. It's more black and white, and it gives you this sense of safety, this sense of security. So if you've got this mindset, it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It just means that your brain, your mind is trying to work around these different scenarios to get you a feeling of safety. And this can be good for immediate survival, but it's not good for long-term success. So follow with me as I help you identify if this is a specific struggle for you. So number one is pay attention how you speak to yourself. So it might be like, I'll never get to my goal. I never get to do what I want to do in life. If I didn't do it right the first time, then it's not worth trying it again. Or if I can't stick to this diet perfectly, then there's no point in trying. So I told you about my client earlier who came in and he really, in his heart, wanted to drop this weight and improve his health. So at that moment when he was chatting with me, he wasn't open to starting the program. And the reason why is because he felt like if he couldn't stick to it perfectly and if he fell off when his kids were coming home, it wasn't worth him trying it or diving into the program. So other things to look for. Number two is extreme reactions. Do you feel either triumphant or defeated? Is there no in-between feelings when you're going through your life experiences? Number three, what is the type of language that you use? Do you use superlatives like always, never, I can't, it's impossible, identical? These are all words that help to dictate this black or white type of thinking. Number four, is it for you perfectionism versus failure? Do you feel like if you can't be perfect, like this fellow I talked about earlier, then it's an ultimate failure and it's not worth trying? Number five, do you categorize things as completely good or bad and there's no gray area, there's no in between? Do you give up easily? You know, if you have a setback, do you give up? Oh my gosh, that was a failure. It's not worth diving back in. Do you have low self-esteem, negative self-talk? Do you have feelings of anxiety, depression? Do you procrastinate getting started? You know, do you ignore the good things and can't really recognize the truth because of these color-tinted glasses that you're wearing? I have a really great example of this. One of our clients, her name is Donna, and she's 76 years old. And before she came in to see us, she couldn't even get out of her chair. She had a really terrible fall. And she was working on overcoming. She had surgery, but she couldn't get up. She was in so much pain. And in addition to that, she had significant autoimmune conditions and she would flare up probably once every few days and just was in so much pain she couldn't move. So she got started with us on the program and she's 76 years old and in 26 weeks, she's down 40 pounds. And her coach came to me because for clients who are on the PhD program, if there's something their coach can't figure out, they all come to me and I oversee all of our clients' programs. And so the coach came to me and she's like, I can't see anything wrong. This client is doing really great, but she's frustrated because she's only dropped 40 pounds in 26 weeks. And so I looked at her chart and everything looked great, but I could see, because we keep notes every week on our clients' charts, and I could see 6 weeks following up to this time when I was looking at her, the notes said, gosh, this client is really frustrated. This client is upset that she only dropped 1.5 pounds instead of 2.5. And the next week, she's really frustrated because her weight has stayed steady. And then the next week, and so on. And so I look at this chart and this lady's 76 years old and she's down 40 pounds without being able to move. I mean, how unbelievable is that? It's incredible. It's almost, I would say, like a miracle. Now, she's not dropping any more 2 to 3 pounds a week. Her average is still about 1.6 pounds or so. But anyone listening to this could attest to the fact that someone who can't move, who can't get out of her chair, and now, by the way, can start moving and is feeling better. And now with her autoimmune condition, she has flare-ups maybe, once every other week, but they have significantly reduced. I mean, amazing. And so what we did is we went back to this client and said, oh my gosh, you've got to stop beating yourself up. You've got to recognize the good and the amazing improvements that you've made in your health, and the fact that you've dropped 40 pounds while not being able to move at 76 years old is unbelievable. And so that week, you won't believe it, but she dropped 3 pounds just because she stopped beating herself up and embraced the fact that she's doing so many amazing things for herself and her body, and she's worked so hard. So if this is you and you focus on the negatives, you beat yourself up, it's only either perfect or a failure, then this is black or white thinking. Other things to look for when it comes to this all or nothing mindset is if you've got a fear of failure and you avoid trying new things, if you compare yourself to others, and if you have a fixed versus growth mindset. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked a lot about growth or fixed mindsets, and they have a lot to do when it comes to this black or white thinking, this all or nothing mindset. And Andrew Huberman just did a really great podcast on growth versus fixed mindset. And his podcast is called Huberman Labs. I suggest you check it out because his material is amazing. In his podcast, he talks about growth versus fixed mindsets. And a growth mindset is you believing that your abilities can adapt, that intelligence can be developed through effort and practice and learning and growth, versus a fixed mindset. And this fixed mindset is where your abilities are unchangeable. You might tell yourself, I'm never going to get to goal. Your reactions are really extreme, and setbacks are equivalent to an ultimate failure rather than a stepping stone to success. And that's the deal, is that you've got to view this failure as a stepping stone. You've got to perceive setbacks as chances to learn, and you've got to be able to adapt these certain strategies to achieve your goals. And if you break free from this black or white thinking, then it will change your life. It will allow you to, like I said earlier, not be a victim of circumstances. And I know that it can be scary because it doesn't allow you to feel that sense of security right out of the gate. And remember, if you've got that mindset, this is why, but it's so worth it. Sometimes we have to do these things that are very uncomfortable, and pushing outside of this mindset is going to be one of those. So Katie Byron has this book, and it's called The Work. I suggest you check it out. And here's what she encourages you to do. So she wants you to write down your stressful thought and ask yourself 4 questions. So number 1, is the thought true? Number 2, can you absolutely know it's true? Number 3, how do you react? Like, what happens when you believe that thought? And number 4, who would you be without the thought? So take that stressful thought, ask yourself those 4 questions, and then work to turn that thought around. So basically what you're doing is right now, I want you to take a moment and write down a thought that could be within this all or nothing mindset, this black or white thinking. And then first, I want you to label it. Second, I want you to challenge the negative thought, just like Katie Byron has you do. Is it true? And how do you know if it's true? Is it based on evidence, or could it just be a story that you're telling yourself to give you that sense of security? Number 3, what emotions are tied to it? Do you notice some kind of negativity associated with the thought that you're having? Number 4, have self-compassion with yourself. Rewrite the thought as if you're writing it for a loved one. Rewrite it as if it were for someone who you really love. Turn the thought around. Number 5 is I want you to reframe your setbacks. Reframe your setbacks as stepping stones for success. So before I got into the field of nutrition, I was a professional ballet dancer, and I was always met with injury, and it was a constant battle for me. My body just generally didn't want to do what was required of me to do in the sport. And I always struggled with my body. I was never at the weight that I needed to be. I restricted calories like crazy, and I still was told that I was fat countless times. Because I didn't give my body what it needed, I was injured all the time as well. And I had countless stress fractures. And I remember one particular stress fracture injury. I had a stress fracture in my fourth and fifth metatarsal of my foot. And it was during my college days when I was getting my degree in ballet performance, and I was dancing with this company. So I was once in my life given all of these lead roles. I was Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. There were 2 other pieces where I had the primary lead role. I was so ecstatic. And then all of a sudden, like, I just couldn't point my foot. And that's a big issue in ballet. Like, you're supposed to point your foot all day long. And I couldn't. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh my gosh, you've got multiple stress fractures. You're going to have to wear this boot for 6 weeks. So sorry. And I was devastated. Like, such a huge setback, such a failure for me. Once and for all, I was stepping up and getting these lead roles, and I was so depressed. Luckily for me, we had 9 weeks until the show, and I was supposed to be in this stupid boot for 6 weeks. And so I did it. I put the boot on. 6 weeks. I got my butt up every morning, and I went to PT before all of the rehearsals. Every day I was in the pool doing what we called, bar, and all of the stuff that I was supposed to do on the floor, I was doing in the therapy pool. I would then come and I would participate in rehearsals, and although I couldn't actually dance, I would move my upper body, I would memorize the steps, I would visualize myself achieving the goals, achieving the roles, doing really well. I told my instructors, like, do not give away these roles. I am doing this and I will do it really well. So they're like, okay, we'll see what you can do. And I got that boot off, and I swear to you, I was stronger than ever. I could jump higher. I could turn more. I was more involved because I wasn't burnt out. I had the emotion and the passion, and I got up there and I performed the best that I've ever performed in my life. So that's just an example of using a setback as a stepping stone for success, because I could have easily just given up. I could have given the roles to someone else, and I could have just sat there and been totally depressed and put on weight and gotten weaker, but I did the exact opposite. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. You've got to take these setbacks, you've got to take these challenging situations in your life and use them to up-level yourself. You've got to celebrate small wins. Take all the wins you've got, no matter how small they are, and stack them so they feel so significant. Just like the client I shared with you earlier, 76 years old, down 40 pounds without being able to move. Oh my gosh, those aren't just small wins. They are huge, but she wasn't acknowledging that. She was beating herself up instead. And physiologically, her body wasn't letting herself drop and burn the fat. It was encouraging fat storage instead. Positive self-talk is really important. Remember that how you talk to yourself and the words you use actually program your brain just like any computer. You've got to have flexibilities with ups and downs. Everybody is going to have times during their weight loss process where they don't drop weight. So if you have had weeks in your weight loss journey where you haven't dropped weight consistently, it's okay. The weeks where you don't drop the weight are the weeks where you have to have a stronger resolve. And remember that stronger resolve helps to push you ultimately more forward in positive momentum of your goals. And then number 10, you need to get support. Remember that you shouldn't be able to do this on your own. Your body is complex. It's a really complex system that's much more complicated than calories in and calories out. Unlike what many of us believe, we're not monitored by calorie sensors. We've got hormones in there. We've got metabolism in there. We've got our thoughts that significantly impact our body physiology. And so if you haven't been able to drop the weight on your own, I want you to know that it's okay. Sometimes we expect that we should do it on our own, and it increases our general level of anxiety. And like I just said, when you have high levels of anxiety and high stress, your body physiology and those hormones don't support fat burn, and it makes it even harder to drop weight. I think it's funny that when it comes to weight loss and getting support, we have this negative stigma in society. But if it comes to business, then it's okay to get a coach, right? All of the most successful people generally have coaches. If you're an athlete, then it's okay to have a coach. I mean, people would look at you oddly if you're an athlete and you don't have a coach behind you helping you. It's no different with weight loss. Having a coach, having someone who holds you accountable, reduces the emotion that comes into play and really just puts you on point and holds you accountable. It's someone who tells you the truth, someone who can take an outside perspective and really figure out what small tweaks need to be made so you can see continued success. There's another book on this topic that I want you to check out, and it's by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. And he talks about doing nothing at all versus making small, consistent efforts toward a specific goal. And it's actually the small, consistent efforts that result in significant improvements. If you think about my book reading situation, if I actually sat down whenever I had 5 minutes, which is rare, but once in a while, when I have 5 minutes, I sit down. If I read 5 pages, I would have a library, a bureau of books that I've completed rather than very few, which is what I have to my name right now. I have a really great, again, Audible library that's completed, though, I will say that. And so I know it's hard to see small, consistent changes when it comes to our body physiology. So I'm putting this in terms of money, of finances, because it's easier to see that way. So I looked up Warren Buffett, and we all know that he is, I think, the wealthiest or one of the wealthiest guys in the world. And it's not because he's an amazing investor. It's because he started investing when he was really young, and he made small, consistent efforts toward his financial future. So right now he's 90 years old, and his net worth is worth more than $81 billion. And he started investing at the age of 10, and actually the largest portion of his wealth he accrued at the age of 50, and then he got 70 billion of his dollars after he was 60 years old. That would have never happened if he just gave up or thought it was never worth it. So I use ChatGPT for this next equation, and if it's wrong, then let's just blame AI and not me. So if you save $20 per paycheck beginning at 18 years old, and you stop that investment at 60 years old and you got a 10% return, let's say you stuck it in the stock market, and I looked up per ChatGPT what the average stock market return was in the last 50 years, and it was 10%. So that's why I got this number. You would have $262,544 today. And I think a lot of us would say, nothing of $20 per paycheck is going to get me anything. Let me go buy my few Starbucks. Let me go get my nails done. It's just not worth it. It's not going to get anywhere. But really, if you did that and you did something with it from the age of 18 years old up to 60, you'd have over $200,000. So the same thing goes with your health, right? If you make small changes and you're consistent with those small changes, they add up to massive, massive results. And I'm happy to say that the client I spoke of earlier, who was so hesitant to get started because he wanted to enjoy time with his kids, and he equated eating and wine and desserts with love, he did end up getting started that day. And today he is down over 20 pounds in about 6 weeks. So he's doing amazing. And I chat with him, and he said, my kids came home and I enjoyed wine and I enjoyed some food, but I also shared with them some of the strategies that I'm taking in improving my health. And he said that his kids were so proud of him and his commitment and dedication that he actually inspired them to make positive changes in their own health. And he said that he got to enjoy his time with them, and it was no less enjoyable, and it was okay that he wasn't perfect. So I'm reading this book, and it's called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, and it's a business book. So if you're an entrepreneur, you like business, I suggest that you read it. It has been really helpful to me. And here's what he says about business, but it relates to our body and our health as well. He says, start where you are and don't let perfect get in the way of possible. His dad said, shiny shoes don't help you walk any faster. The goal is not to get the anchor all the way back into the boat, but to make forward progress, we only need to get it a quarter of an inch off the bottom. So cheers to forward momentum, and let's not let perfectionism or this all or nothing mindset get in the way of us achieving our big goals. I hope that you got great value from this. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please subscribe and leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment and subscribe. That's how the algorithm can pick us up and help us serve and impact as many people as possible. So remember, you got to step up to make the change. Lead with your heart, train your mind, and don't negotiate with your body. See you on the next show.